$50 to $150 per month and potentially more by a sustainable and green lifestyle, according to Energy Weekly News. Now, doesn't that sound something like you want to know more? Well, keep on listening. For starters, I'm going to ask you to interact with me. If you often buy an item from anywhere that involves plastic and you throw it away, raise your hand. Put your hands down. Now raise your hand if you recycle 50% or more of your household waste weekly. Put your hands down. I am almost certain the majority of you who raised your hands first was true to that, and most of the people outside of this room do that too. I try to reduce and reuse and recycle as much as I possibly can. And when I do these 3 R's, I feel accomplished and good that I am helping the environment and I am making an impact on the earth. Although we typically view green and sustainable living as an extra duty, it might be an added aspect to keep the earth clean and helpful towards people too. So what is green living, someone might ask? Green living is being aware of what your actions do and what you are doing to the environment, and being aware of that and making a change for the better. Morris Simpson, who has written several reliable articles, writes, "You take your own environment via your home or your business, you look at it as a closed system, and you use it and you see how much garbage you are producing and how much garbage you are disposing, and to what extent is your little corner of the ecosystem not in harmony." Many people do not live sustainably and choose to go green, which ultimately results in a negative impact on the world and the environment. An article states, "We are now living in a world full of environmental risks. Water contamination, air pollution, land quality degradation, extreme weather, and various types of geological disasters are endangering ecological sustainability, affecting our ecological assessment, threatening our lives," Liam Wu mentioned. This goes to show the effects non-green living has and is producing. The environment needs a transition from non-green living areas and being polluted to a green and sustainable area that is healthy. Megan Kopp says in one of her books to a series, "To live green, we need to reduce our energy needs and eat organic and locally produced food." Living green begins with understanding that the choices we make do affect everyone. Speaking of ways to live green, here are a few ways to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Kopp utters, reduce, reuse, repair, and recycle. These 4 R's are the main principles of living green. This is just the gist and the beginning of what one needs to know before they transition from a non-green lifestyle to a sustainable and healthy one. There are several opportunities to reduce, reuse, repair, and recycle. Many of you have likely seen recycling bins in your classrooms, or maybe even have them at home, seen them in town, or anywhere you go. Former director at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, Cecilia Minden, remarks, "Some towns pick up recycling when they pick up trash. Put your recycling containers by the curb. Other towns have recycling centers. People bring their trash to the centers, and everyone sorts their trash and puts it in the big bins." Something this simple can ultimately lead to a greener and greater lifestyle, but the options do not stop there. They are endless. When you're out and about, it is much harder to stay sustainable because it is a challenge because you do not get to choose what you receive and how you receive them. For example, if you're at a restaurant and they give you a takeout box. Russ Parsons vocalizes, "Take your own reusable containers and to restaurants for leftovers. You've probably made enough tinfoil swans by now." This is extremely easy and cutting down on a ridiculous amount of unnecessary waste. Many wonder, what about the stuff that isn't necessarily garbage, like food and kitchen waste? Simpson states, "Composting is an area where you can reduce your residential waste by about 30% or so, simply by taking out all the kitchen waste in a bucket, and once every second day or so, someone in the family hauls it out to the compost site in the backyard." Besides the food that gets thrown out, you are probably wondering what foods even are green and sustainable foods, and how do you obtain those items? Green eating sounds healthy because, well, it sort of is. Fruits and veggies are at the top of the green eating pyramid. If you think of your own home, raise your hand if you would say you throw about 50% or more of your food out weekly because it got old, you don't like it, or simply just because. Now knowing that, almost 1/3 of all food produced worldwide is wasted. Food is thrown away during processing, transporting in supermarkets, and at home in our own kitchens. We have little control outside our home, but we can control the amount of food we waste in our own kitchen, Megan Kopp intelligently states. Kopp adds to the previous thought by saying, eating locally produced food reduces the carbon dioxide emissions related to the transporting, processing, and refrigerating of goods from far away. Green eating doesn't mean you need to cut all ties with grocery stores and never buy from anyone else. Buying locally produced food is a fantastic way to support your local businesses and get your fresh, sustainable foods and not produce nearly the amount of wasted food that you normally would. On the flip side of buying locally, you too can produce your own food. In Parsons' Food and Dining, Living Green, he mentions, you grow your own. Either plant vegetables in raised beds in the yard or even just put some herbs in a pot on the windowsill. At first, it might seem like a hassle, but in the end, it is a great result. It is definitely worth it because you can customize what you plant, where you plant it, and when you plant it, fitting your own home and needs. Along with planting and growing your own, you can jazz them up even further like a grocery store would. Russ Parsons also declares, start canning some of your own pickles and jams when the vegetables and fruits are at the peak of their season. It will be cheaper than buying store-bought, and likely the quality will be better as well. Eating sustainable and growing your own foods to stay green results in a better off diet and a higher quality environment. Green and sustainable living can be viewed as unnecessary, but to keep the earth clean, maintain the environment, and give a good lifestyle for people, it may be an added essential. For those of you who raised your hands first at the beginning of this speech, you now know ways to go green and be sustainable. And for those of you who raised your hand second, you are on the path to reducing your footprint even further.